your life's in jeopardy. I have to do my job to make sure that my brothers survive, and vice versa. It's the same thing when running into a building, the same thing on 9/11. I'm sure the brothers knew at that particular time that they were not going to make it. But they went in and they did their job, and their job was to get those people out.
On the days of both attacks, we saw the best of Americans at home. At that moment, strangers became neighbors, and we were all defined by only one word: Americans.
From operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, the stories of valor like Medal of Honor recipients Corporal Jason Dunham and Sergeant Dakota Meyer are examples of heroism that emerged.
This year we mark 10 years of continuous combat operations in which the United States has relentlessly taken the fight to the enemy.
We're going to be here for the people, no matter what it takes.
Just want to build relations with the locals. It's obviously the key to win this war.
The fighting in the area is getting better, and they only shoot a couple bursts and then they leave because they know we're going to kill them.
I don't look back and wish I hadn't deployed or think, why me? Because why not me? I wouldn't want someone else to get injured in my place. So I don't feel bad about what happened. Yes, I struggle like all wounded warriors do, but if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would definitely deploy.
You know, I didn't know how past generations of Marines would view our generation until I got off the plane in Bangor, Maine, and it was the receiving line of all your World War II vets and Vietnam vets, but they're clapping for us and calling us heroes. We're not heroes, we're just today's Marines.
As Marines, we will not stand down until the mission is complete and our nation is once again secure.
The indomitable spirit comes not only from the proud tradition of our nation, but from the confidence that our military forces will ensure no act of aggression against the United States goes unanswered.
Sergeant Major Barrett and I stand shoulder to shoulder with each of you. Thank you for your strength, your understanding, and your support as we carry out the mission of the Corps. Happy 236th birthday, Marines, and Semper Fidelis.
The first piece of cake is presented to the guest of honor, Mr. Tim Day. The second piece of cake is presented to the oldest Marine present, signifying the honor and respect accorded to the experience and seniority. The oldest Marine this evening is Major Richard Fronick, USMC retired, who was born on January 13th, 1927, and enlisted in the Corps on February 13th, 1943. Symbolically, the eldest Marine present passes a piece of cake to the youngest Marine present. Just as for 236 years, our experienced Marines have nurtured and led young Marines that will fill our ranks and renew our Corps. The youngest Marine present this evening is PFC Joy Kimaru, who was born on July 31st, 1993, and enlisted in the Corps on December 11th, 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Nathan Bolin, Inspector Instructor, Bulk Fuel Company C, 6th Engineer Support Battalion.
Can you hear me all right? On behalf of Major Ronald Coleman, Master Sergeant James, First Sergeant Baker, I would like to welcome you to our birthday ball. It's truly a privilege to have you here tonight to help us celebrate the 236th birthday ball of the United States Marine Corps. Tonight was made possible by the efforts and hard work of several people. Most notably, one Staff Sergeant Rena Abraham. Staff Sergeant Abraham. She started planning this ball last year as soon as the last one ended, and tonight's gala is all because of her hard work. So we're grateful for all your contributions. Thank you very much, Staff. I'd also like to thank the staff of Chaparral Suites. They've been very accommodating to us and worked with us as much as possible. Marines are a bunch of knuckle draggers, so we had to, kind of draw out the dotted lines or something in the sand so they could explain to us. But they've done a great job, and we're really glad to be here tonight. Thank you. The Commandant's and Sergeant Major's message is pretty difficult to follow up, so I'm not going to bother to try. I'm going to leave that to our guest of honor, Mr. Tim Day. However, I would like to point out the success that this company has done. Most of the Marines in this room enlisted after 9/11, 2001, meaning they entered into the Marine Corps knowing the challenges that were laid out before them. And right now, this past year, we've had Marines deployed from everywhere, from Alaska to Camp Pendleton, California, and to North Carolina. Then we reached out even farther. We went out to Western Africa, down to the Horn of Africa. We've got Marines in Rome. We have Marines in Germany. We sent Marines to Kuwait. We sent Marines to all climes and places, but most notably, we've even got Marines in Afghanistan. Right now, we have 17 Marines and a few others that are serving in Afghanistan that are making this night possible because they're taking the fight to the enemy and they're allowing us to enjoy an evening night like this. So it's a great honor to be here with you tonight, but this company has Marines spread throughout the globe, continuing to fight the war on terror, and we must take pause and remember them tonight. So I just remember the Marines who are deployed. Hello. Our guest of honor is Mr. Tim Day, a very notable man. Mr. Day was joined the Marine Corps a couple days ago and got out just a few moments ago. But Mr. Day's contributions to the Marine Corps were not limited to his service. After he got out of the Marine Corps, he continued to advance himself, like most all of us. Mr. Day went on to Harvard Business School and then became a successful entrepreneur. But it's not his career resume that's notable, it's the integrity with which he served by. And that's what made him stand out from all the other American businessmen. He's created scholarships at Harvard Business School to promote Marine Corps officers and give them that pedigree so that they can not only take their Marine Corps resume out to the business sector, but they can also take a training of a Harvard Business School and make it even better corporate America. He's constantly contributing to the Marine Corps Scholarship Fund, contributing to the Semper Fi Fund, and his efforts have led him to be recognized by the Commandant, where last week he was pulled off to the side by the Commandant while they were having a Wounded Warrior meal, and the Commandant took him across the street at 8th and I and had a burger with him. This is the type of notable service that Mr. Day has done. Our Commandant takes a moment out of his busy schedule to share a burger with him. So it's with a tremendous honor that we have him here tonight to listen to what he has to say about our birthday message. And it's because of, I'll conclude with just this. It's true that Marines die. But it's because of Marines like that we have in this room and the efforts of Mr. Day and his service that their legacy and the legacy of the United States Marine Corps will continue to live on forever. Happy birthday, Marines. Semper Fidelis. Help me introduce Mr. Tim Day, please.
Well, thank you, Nate. Is this microphone on? Can we hear him back there? A little more. Turn up the... Thank you for that warm and lofty introduction. I hope I prove worthy of it tonight. I joined the Marine Corps in 1956, some 55 years ago. So as I look around this room, I suspect that my call to arms occurred before most of you were born. So let's hope the essence of a Marine doesn't fade too much with age. On this special occasion, the birthday night, I think it's appropriate to remind ourselves why we so treasure our bond with the Corps and with our brother Marines. And in doing so, what could be more appropriate than to recite a couple of battle tales that are important chapters in our illustrious history. And since I know that the Marines of the 6th Engineer Support Battalion, Company C, often serve with the 1st Marine Division, you probably appreciate that these are old breed stories. These two battles, these two stories took place at different parts on the globe and were separated by more than 60 years. But I think that they exemplify the core values and traditions that bond Marines across time and history. So first let me ask, are there any chosen few in this room? I didn't think anyone was quite old enough to qualify for that particular. There we go, a chosen few. Well, this first battle story takes place on the Korean Peninsula starting November 27th, 1950, when elements of the 1st Marine Division, the 5th Marines, two infantry regiments, the 5th Marines and the 7th Marines, and 3 battalions of artillery from the 11th Marines were still pushing north toward the Chosun Reservoir, unaware that 300,000 Chinese had crossed the Yalu River and were heading toward them. The 3rd Infantry Regiment, the 1st Marines under the command of Chesty Puller, was in reserve to the south in a town called Kotori, about 26 miles to the south. And there was only one road called the Main Service Road, the MSR, the Marines called it, that ran from Kotori up to Hagaruri and then cut over toward Chosun. And as it cut toward Chosun, it went through what was known as the Taktan-san Pass, a natural choke point. Well, Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, was ordered to secure the 5,400-foot Taktan-san mountain that overlooked this pass. In command of Fox Company was Captain William Barber, a Mustang and veteran of World War II, had landed on Iwo Jima, commanding a rifle platoon. Well, he carefully deployed his men on the upper ridges in defensive positions of Fox. Well, they called that Taktan-san Mountain, they called it Fox Hills. The Marine changed that name to Fox Hills pretty quickly. And he carefully deployed his defensive, on those upper ridges, his defensive positions. The weather was brutally cold, unmanageable. It was 25 below zero at a minimum. Some say 40 below zero. It was the coldest winter ever recorded in Manchuria. So cold that the water in canteens froze solid. Oil on rifles congealed, caused jamming. Radio batteries quickly died, so there was lost radio communication. The clothing the Marines were issued, as you might imagine, was totally inadequate for those conditions. Sea rations were frozen so hard, impossible to chew them. And of course, you couldn't dig a foxhole in the cement-like ground. Well, that first night, a Chinese battalion composed of 5 infantry companies, all dressed in white camouflage. They snuck up this western slope, which was rocky, steep, and craggy, provided a lot of concealment, and launched a surprise attack. Well, they caught the Marines a bit off guard, but they still responded rapidly with automatic weapons, machine guns, and the battle was fierce. The lines buckled a little bit, and some elements of the Chinese got into the upper perimeter of Fox Hill. But basically the lines held. And the next morning the Marines went out in patrols and hunted down all the Chinese that were hiding up in the upper ridges of that mountain and killed them. And they stripped the bodies of rifles and ammunition, and then they took those dead Chinese bodies and put them on fighting in their foxholes like sandbags for protection. And they pulled the lines a bit tighter. Well, the next night, reinforced by a second battalion of Chinese, again, they crept up that western slope and tried to launch a surprise attack, but this time the Marines were ready. And it was a vicious firefight all night long, but no one got through. But there were heavy casualties on both sides. But by the next morning, the Marines now were pretty low in ammunition, and they hadn't eaten for a couple of days. And many were wounded or frostbitten. All officers but one had been wounded, but they refused to leave the line. They stayed with their men to fight. And Captain Barber had been shot in the hip and had to limp from foxhole to foxhole using a stick as a crutch. Well, the Marines down south, the first, under Chesty Puller, the first Marines, had tried to send reinforcements up the MSR from the south to reinforce Fox Hill. But by now the Chinese were in all of the hills surrounding that road in great numbers, and they beat that reinforced convoy back. And up in Chosin, up north, the 5th Marines and the 7th Marines were now under full-scale attack by more than 100,000 Chinese. And they were fighting for their life. So Colonel Homer Litzenberger, who commanded the 7th Marines, he finally got a hold of Captain Barber by radio, and he said, "Captain, we've tried to reinforce you from the south. We can't do it from the north. No hope of any relief, any reinforcements. I'm leaving it up to you, whether you pull out or stay on that hill." Well, by now, Captain Barber recognized that they were in a fight for the death, and that the Marines up in Chosin were going to have to fight their way down that MSR to the relative safety of Hagaruri. And if the Chinese held that commanding position of Fox Hill, when the Marine columns passed below, it would be a bloodbath. And so